All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Close your eyes for just a second and picture a moody, cinematic 19th century maritime atmosphere. Imagine the biting smell of salt in the air, the rhythmic crashing of dark waves, and the heavy groaning of wooden planks. Today, we're going on an epic journey of obsession in the sea, experiencing Herman Melville's masterpiece together. We start our story seamlessly with what are probably the three most famous words in all of literature: "Call me Ishmael." Our narrator, Ishmael, is a sensitive and deeply philosophical young man. He says he feels a damp, drizzly November in his soul, and to cure it, he abandons his humdrum, predictable shore life. He steps out into the vast, unpredictable ocean, looking for adventure and meaning aboard a whaling ship. So, as Ishmael boards the ship, the Pequod, he climbs down into what sailors call the forecastle. Basically, that's just the tight, creaking, dimly lit living space right at the front of the vessel, reserved for the ordinary sailors. Stepping into these quarters, Ishmael enters a completely different world, bumping shoulders with a rugged, incredibly diverse crew gathered from literally all corners of the globe.
And it's down here that Ishmael meets the man who's going to become his closest companion, a harpooner. Now, a harpooner is exactly what it sounds like, a highly skilled, deeply dangerous job, where the hunter has to physically throw a heavy spear to strike a massive whale. Ishmael's new bunkmate is one of these men. He's a heavily tattooed South Sea Island prince named Queequeg, who, to be honest, completely terrifies our young narrator at first.
But you know, that initial fear quickly melts away. Ishmael drops this brilliant observation, realizing, better to sleep with a sober cannibal than a drunken Christian. It's a great line, and it really shows Ishmael's growing bond with Queequeg. Their profound friendship completely defies the racial stereotypes of their era. Queequeg's bravery and absolute generosity bring a real spark of genuine warmth to the otherwise cold, harsh reality of the whaling industry. Well, before long, it's time to set sail. The crew walks past the heavy bulkhead, which is just the thick, vertical, wooden partition walls inside the ship. Moving past these heavy walls, the crew prepares the Pequod to depart the safety of Nantucket. The anchor is hauled up, the sails drop, and they slowly drift out into the deep, dark sea.
Picture the ship just slicing through those crashing, salty waves. Right at the very front of the ship, you've got the bowsprit. That's a long wooden pole sticking out like a spear from the bow. It points directly into the horizon, carrying the crew further and further away from the safety of land, plunging them into uncharted, dangerous waters.
But there's this heavy, undeniable shadow hanging over the Pequod. For days, the captain stays completely hidden, and when he finally emerges from below deck, wow, the whole tone of our story shifts. This is Captain Ahab, an egomaniacal and terrifyingly charismatic commander. One of his legs has been torn away and replaced by a prosthetic made of polished whalebone, and he is driven by a singular, incredibly dark purpose. You see, Ahab is suffering from something called monomania. In simple terms, it's this exaggerated, completely obsessive preoccupation with just one single thing. He uses a potent mix of charisma and sheer terror to infect his entire crew with this all-consuming madness. He reveals they aren't just out here hunting for oil. No, they are hunting the specific great white sperm whale that maimed him, a beast named Moby Dick. The crew is practically hypnotized by him, but this obsession is totally unnatural. Listen to Ahab's chilling words as they echo across the deck. "Talk not to me of blasphemy, man. I'd strike the sun if it insulted me." He is quite literally declaring war on nature itself. He's taking what was supposed to be a routine commercial voyage and twisting it into a doomed, deeply personal crusade. Ultimately, Ahab's singular goal is vengeance. It's a desperate need to inflict punishment and extract retribution for his missing leg, and it strips away all his logic and reason. He doesn't care about profit. He doesn't care about going home. He binds the fates of every single man aboard the Pequod to his own destructive desires. However, there's one man who dares to speak up. The first mate, Starbuck. He's a rational, careful Quaker, and he publicly protests. He calls Ahab's mission blasphemous, meaning he thinks it's a deeply sacrilegious crime against God and nature. Starbuck argues that seeking revenge on a dumb brute that simply struck Ahab from blind instinct is absolute madness. So this sets up a really fascinating conflict right at the heart of the ship: Starbuck's rational duty versus Ahab's monomaniacal revenge. Starbuck just wants to harvest oil,
earn a living, and return home safely to his family. But Ahab has a fiery, irrational obsession. And unfortunately for the crew, Ahab's magnetic, terrifying will completely overpowers Starbuck's reason, pulling everyone toward inevitable destruction.
But despite all this tension, the sheer reality of their daily work catches up with them. When a regular whale is spotted, the pace just explodes. They experience the legendary Nantucket sleigh ride. This is a terrifyingly dangerous, high-speed chase where a harpooned whale literally drags a tiny cedar whaleboat across the open ocean. These colossal, frenzied creatures pull the men at terrifying speeds, showcasing the brutal reality of maritime survival.
And if they actually survive the chase and succeed in the hunt, well, the exhausting work really begins. They have to harvest the spermaceti. That's a precious liquid wax found deep inside the head of a sperm whale, and it's exactly why they are out here. But there's this grisly contrast. The mundane, backbreaking labor of harvesting oil stands in stark contrast to the ominous doom of Ahab's real mission hanging over them.
To get to that oil, the crew has to flense the whale, which simply means stripping the heavy blubber and skin straight from the carcass. The bloody aftermath on the deck is horrific. The crew boils the blubber in large try-houses right on the wooden deck of the Pequod, completely surrounded by suffocating greasy smoke and the overwhelming stench of burning flesh. It seriously looks and feels like a scene from the underworld.
But right in the middle of all this violent, chaotic industry, the ocean hides its greatest secrets. Ishmael has this haunting reflection. Consider the subtleness of the sea, how its most dreaded creatures glide underwater, unapprehending for the most part. It slows our narrative right down and builds this eerie suspense. It beautifully highlights humanity's fragile, utterly terrifying relationship with the vast, unconquerable ocean.
Lurking way down in those unapparent depths is our Leviathan. Now, a Leviathan is an ancient word for a massive sea monster, or a giant whale. But Moby Dick is not just an animal here. In this story, he becomes an invincible, mythical embodiment of nature's terrifying, unfeeling power. He is an ancient force that simply cannot be reasoned with.
Despite the growing danger and plenty of warnings from passing ships, Ahab flat out refuses to turn back. We see him stubbornly taking control of the helm, which is the ship's heavy wooden steering wheel. Ahab's mysterious harpooner Fedadallah has made dark prophecies about Ahab's death, but Ahab ignores every single one of them. Gripping the helm, he steers the Pequod directly into the jaws of fate.
And finally, we reach the absolute breaking point of our story, the 3-day chase. The crew actually spots the legendary white whale breaching the surface. The tension is incredible. Ahab fiercely orders the boats to be lowered, launching what's going to become a catastrophic, prolonged battle against an immortal enemy. During the first 2 days of the battle, that frantic energy quickly turns to pure terror. Ahab's men attack, but the Leviathan strikes back hard. Moby Dick proves to be an indestructible, vengeful force. The whale easily smashes their fragile whaleboats to splinters, tossing men into the foaming sea like dolls. Yet Ahab's madness only deepens. He simply will not stop. Then on the third and final day, Ahab realizes his doom, but he embraces it with pure, venomous hatred. These are his chilling final words. "Towards thee I roll, thou all-destroying but unconquering whale. To the last I grapple with thee. From hell's heart I stab at thee." Ahab throws his final harpoon, but the line catches around his own neck, and he is dragged silently and swiftly into the watery abyss by his own obsession. But even with Ahab gone, the terror isn't over. Day 3 concludes with the catastrophic sinking of the Pequod itself. The colossal white whale actually turns around and rams the ship with unimaginable force. The wooden hull shatters completely. The great Leviathan drags the entire ship and its trapped crew down into a dark, swirling, inescapable vortex. When the chaos finally subsides, there's just deafening silence. Melville writes, quote, "The great shroud of the sea rolled on as it rolled 5,000 years ago." The ocean just swallows the tragedy, remaining completely indifferent to the struggles, the arrogance, and the madness of mankind. Out of the entire crew, only one survives, Ishmael, floating alone on a wooden coffin, left behind to tell us this tale. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Who is the true monster here? Is it the dumb beast of the earth just acting on instinct?
Or is it the unchecked madness of man? The cost of vengeance is devastating. Think about humanity's eternal, fragile struggle against the overwhelming forces of nature. What will you do when you face your own white whale? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey.